Fellow traveler in life, there exists within each of us a fortress, untouched by storm, undisturbed by the world's noise. This fortress is not built with stone, nor guarded by walls. It is the citadel of reason, conscience, and will. It is your mind. No empire, no tyrant, no shifting fortune can penetrate this place unless you give it leave. All that occurs outside, praise or insult, loss or gain, is foreign to your soul unless you choose to let it in. Your power lies not in the external, but in your response to it. You were not born to chase shadows or tremble before fate. You were born with the gift of self-rule. You possess the sovereign authority over your own thoughts, choices, and character. And it is through the cultivation of this dominion that you find freedom, not the freedom of the body, but of the soul. When hardship knocks, do not ask why it came. Ask instead, what strength can I summon? When the world scorns or misunderstands you, ask not for their approval. Ask only that you remain in harmony with your own principles. That is enough. The world may wound the body, but it cannot touch your judgment. It may take your possessions, but never your values. It may spin in chaos, but your mind can remain still, like a calm flame that burns upright no matter how the wind blows. This inner citadel, once recognized, becomes your refuge and your strength. There you need no guards, only vigilance. There you are not the subject of fortune, but its master. There the battle is not with others, but with your own passions, impulses, and false desires. Conquer those, and you need fear no defeat. So walk through life as one who holds something sacred within. Do not trade your peace for passing pleasure, or your virtue for a moment's comfort. Let your actions spring not from fear, but from purpose. Let your silence be strength, your words be justice, your choices be guided by wisdom. And when the day closes and you are left alone with your thoughts, ask but this: have I been true to what is highest in me? If the answer is yes, rest. If not, resolve to do better tomorrow. The citadel is always there. Guard it well. There is a place within each person that remains untouched by the chaos of the world, a space of clarity, strength, and stillness. This space is the mind governed by reason, what the wise call the inner citadel. Unlike a fortress of stone and iron, this citadel is built from understanding, discipline, and awareness. It cannot be seen, nor can it be stormed from without. Its gates only open inward by your own consent. Life brings with it constant change. Fortunes rise and fall, relationships shift, the body weakens, and the world rarely behaves according to our preferences. Yet amid all this fluctuation, the rational mind can stand firm. The mind that understands what lies within its control, and what does not becomes unshakable. No insult, no misfortune, no act of cruelty or injustice can truly harm the person who has fortified their reason. Pain may be felt, loss may be real, but the judgment of those events, the interpretation, the emotional surrender, the collapse into despair, these belong to the realm of the mind, and this realm is yours to govern. It is easy to believe that our peace depends on circumstances, a quiet home, a stable job, a kind friend, or a good reputation. But when we believe this, we hand over our power. We make ourselves subject to things we cannot fully command. The person who ties their peace to external things builds their house on sand. When the storm comes, and it always does, the house falls. But the one who understands that peace is a product of inner alignment, of the mind acting in harmony with nature and reason, builds on solid rock. The mind, when trained and disciplined, becomes like a flame that rises straight and steady, even when the wind blows around. Distractions may call, temptations may knock, fears may whisper, but the mind that has been taught to recognize its own sovereignty does not bow. It does not depend on flattery or fear. It does not need permission to be calm. This independence is not arrogance, it is wisdom. It is the recognition that the only true domain we possess is our own faculty of choice. To guard this citadel, one must be vigilant, not in the sense of aggression or suspicion, but in the quiet awareness of what enters through the gates of thought. Is this impression before me true? Is it mine to control? Is it worthy of my assent? These are the questions the inner guardian must ask, for every emotion, every belief, every desire begins with an impression. If that impression is mistaken and we fail to examine it, the mind is led astray. But if we stand watch, calmly assessing, then the mind remains secure. Even in moments of distress, grief, betrayal, pain, the inner citadel remains. These feelings may knock loudly on the doors of the soul, but we choose whether to let them command us. They may be acknowledged, even felt deeply, but they do not have the right to govern unless we grant it. And why should we? What ruler would hand their kingdom to a passing storm? To say the mind is impenetrable does not mean we feel nothing. It means we understand what we feel, we examine it, and we decide how to respond. The world can present us with injury, but it cannot dictate our interpretation of that injury. It can separate us from loved ones, but not from our values. It can take our possessions, but not our principles. This is the meaning of the inner citadel, not a wall to keep the world out, but a strength that lets the soul remain unshaken when the world presses in. Freedom is a word often misunderstood. People imagine it as the absence of constraints, the ability to do whatever one pleases, or the possession of power over others. But these are fleeting illusions. External freedom can be taken away in a moment by fate, by law, by misfortune. True freedom, the only freedom that endures, is the freedom of self-mastery. It is the quiet but unyielding rule over one's own mind, impulses and choices. It is the realization that no one can compel your judgment or your will unless you surrender it voluntarily. Each person is born with a ruling faculty, the ability to reason and choose. This is what sets human beings apart from all other creatures. Animals are driven by instinct and appetite. They follow the strongest impulse of the moment, whether it be hunger, fear, or desire. But human beings have been granted something higher, the capacity to step back from the surge of emotion and examine it. The ability to say, no, this is not fitting, or yes, this is right. That gap between stimulus and response is where freedom lives. To close that gap blindly is to become a slave, not to another person, but to oneself, to one's cravings, fears, and illusions. Self-mastery is not a denial of feeling, but a training in judgment. It is to know when a desire is excessive, when an aversion is irrational, when a fear is baseless. It is to live in such a way that your actions follow your reasoned values, not the whims of the moment. The person who has mastered themselves may face poverty, insult, or illness, but they do not tremble before them. Their sense of worth does not come from what happens to them, but from how they meet it. And because of this, they are free, not from life's conditions, but from their tyranny. This mastery is not achieved once and for all. It must be practiced daily, moment by moment. Every decision is a chance to affirm one's freedom. Do you lash out when provoked, or do you pause and respond with clarity? Do you seek pleasure blindly, or do you measure what is truly good? Do you act out of fear of others' opinions, or out of fidelity to your own principles? In each of these questions, your freedom is either confirmed or abandoned. No external power can truly enslave the one who governs themselves. A tyrant may command your body, may strip away possessions, may silence your voice, but cannot touch your moral agency. If you hold fast to your reason, if you refuse to consent to falsehood or cruelty, then you remain intact. This is not a romantic defiance, but a sober strength. It is the understanding that virtue is the only true good and vice the only true harm. Everything else, health, fame, fortune, suffering, is indifferent in the moral sense. They may affect the body or the social standing, but not the soul unless allowed. To live with self-mastery is to accept responsibility for your own condition. It is to cease blaming the world, others, or circumstances for your inner state. No one makes you angry. Your anger arises from within. No one offends your dignity. It is you who interpret their actions as an injury. This does not mean injustice should be tolerated or cruelty ignored. It means that your response to those wrongs remains in your power. You may act against them, but without losing your command over yourself. The mind that is mastered is light, agile, grounded. It is not rigid, nor is it tossed by every wind. It holds its course with discipline and humility. It does not need constant reassurance or approval, for it draws its confidence from within. And it does not fear loss because it does not cling to anything not within its control. It acts with purpose, speaks with thought, and chooses with care. This is the meaning of inner freedom, not the ability to do whatever you want, but the strength to do what is right, regardless of what you feel. Adversity is the proving ground of character. It reveals the substance of a person not by what they profess, but by how they respond when the world turns against them. When fortune is kind, when circumstances are easy and comfort surrounds us, there is little challenge to our integrity. It is in suffering, loss, and uncertainty that the true strength of our inner life is tested. A smooth sea does not shape a skilled sailor, and a life without trials does not forge wisdom or resilience. The wise do not seek adversity, but neither do they fear it. They see in it a necessary instrument for growth and transformation. When hardship arrives, most people ask why they have been afflicted. They look for someone to blame, some reason to feel wronged, some outlet for their frustration or grief. But the one who walks the path of inner discipline asks a different question. They ask what virtue can be summoned, what strength can be trained, what clarity can be found. They understand that difficulty is not a punishment, but a summons, a call to rise, to sharpen, to refine. Whether the challenge is physical pain, emotional betrayal, or material loss, it brings with it the opportunity to practice courage, endurance, patience, or detachment. Life does not arrange itself according to human wishes. The natural order is indifferent to our preferences. Winter comes whether we are ready or not. Illness may strike the virtuous as easily as the vicious. Those who cling to the hope that life will spare them discomfort or injustice are forever at the mercy of fortune. But those who train their minds to expect the unpredictable, who remind themselves daily that suffering is part of the human condition, are prepared when hardship arrives. They are not surprised, not shaken, but ready to meet what comes with steady eyes. Adversity also strips away illusions. It shows us what we truly value. When comforts are removed, we see whether we depended on them too deeply. When people turn against us, we learn whether we had attached our peace to their approval. When plans fail, we see whether our sense of purpose was grounded in results or in the process itself. Pain reveals dependencies, false beliefs, and the weakness of attachments we did not know we had. And in that revelation lies a gift, the chance to correct, to recenter, to return to what is truly essential. Even in the darkest trials there is choice. No event, no matter how harsh, can dictate our moral response. We may feel sorrow, but we do not have to collapse into despair. We may feel anger, but we do not have to act in cruelty. We may suffer loss, but we do not have to lose our dignity. The one thing we always retain is our ability to choose our stance. That choice is the seed of freedom and the core of virtue. It is what allows us to transform adversity into excellence. To be tested is not to be diminished, it is to be refined. The blade grows sharp by being ground against the stone. The soul grows clear by being pressed against the limits of endurance. Each difficulty properly faced strengthens the will. Each painful moment, accepted without complaint and met with resolve, adds to the foundation of a resilient life. Even failure, if borne honestly and learned from humbly, contributes to wisdom. The goal is not to avoid adversity, but to use it well, to allow it to carve away what is weak and reveal what is strong. Those who fear hardship remain in bondage to it, but those who welcome it as part of the path begin to walk with a different posture. They do not curse the storm, but adjust their sails. They do not wait for ease, but develop steadiness. They do not crumble when tested, but become forged. Through each trial they become more themselves, more grounded, more inwardly free. The desire for approval is deeply rooted in human nature. From a young age, people are conditioned to seek praise, recognition, and acceptance. The gaze of others begins to shape our actions, and slowly, often without notice, we start to measure our worth through reflections that do not belong to us. Yet the pursuit of approval is a kind of subtle slavery. It shifts control of our peace and self-respect into the hands of others. It binds us to a shifting, unpredictable standard that cannot offer stability or truth. The wise know this and turn instead toward their own principles. They do not scorn others, but they do not live for them. There is a difference between being respected and being ruled by the need to be respected. To be liked, to be acknowledged, to be seen in a favorable light. These are pleasant things, but they are not good in themselves. They are external, fleeting, and often based on things outside your control. Another person's mood, their upbringing, their opinions, their ignorance or insight. When you build your sense of self on such a foundation, you become fragile. A single rumor, a misunderstood action, or a change in fashion can cause your inner balance to collapse. This is because the approval you rely on was never truly yours to begin with. The one who seeks to live with integrity does not chase reputation. They consider whether their actions are right, not whether they will be applauded. They ask, is this in accordance with reason, justice, and self-respect? Not, will they like me for it? They know that praise can come to the vicious just as easily as to the virtuous. They know that the crowd often cheers for what is shallow, loud, or cruel, and they refuse to be ruled by such forces. They act with care and honor even when no one is watching. They speak the truth even when it is unwelcome. They hold themselves to a higher standard, the only one that matters, the standard of the soul aligned with wisdom. It is not that they reject all criticism or ignore all counsel, but they weigh it first. They ask whether the words are grounded in truth, whether the speaker is wise, whether the insight offered is worth their attention. If so, they adjust with humility. If not, they remain unmoved. Their goal is not to seem good, but to be good. They are not interested in the mask of virtue, but in the reality of it. And because of this, they are free. They do not fear judgment because their worth is not built upon it. To depend on the opinions of others is to surrender your compass. It is to become a puppet, your strings pulled by whispers and glances. It is to lose the serenity that comes from standing in alignment with your own reason. No one else lives your life. No one else carries your thoughts, your struggles, or your conscience. To allow another to dictate how you should live is to forget this simple fact. It is to hand over your clarity in exchange for applause that may never come, or may come for the wrong reasons. Approval is not evil, but it is dangerous when it becomes necessary. It is sweet when freely given, but bitter when demanded. The wise take it with gratitude when it aligns with their actions, and release it without regret when it does not. They remain rooted in something deeper than the crowd's voice. They remember that honor is internal, and that a quiet conscience is worth more than the loudest cheer. In this way they preserve their dignity, their freedom, and their peace. Virtue is the only true good. This truth stands at the heart of all sound philosophy and all enduring strength. It means that nothing external, no matter how desirable or painful, has moral weight unless it affects the quality of your soul. Wealth, health, beauty, social status, comfort, these are not goods in themselves. They may be used wisely or poorly. They may assist a virtuous life, but they do not define it. Their presence does not make one good, nor does their absence make one bad. What matters is how they are regarded, how they are used, and whether the soul remains in harmony with what is just, temperate, courageous, and wise. This is not a theory to be admired from a distance, but a principle to be lived. For many, life is spent chasing what appears good, possessions, approval, pleasures, and avoiding what appears bad, poverty, pain, criticism, hardship. But this chase is endless, and the peace it promises is always just out of reach. Each achievement leads to new desires, and each misfortune brings fresh fears. The soul becomes restless, tossed about by every turn of fortune, never anchored, never free. Only when one reorients the measure of good and evil from external outcomes to internal character can true stability be found. To live by virtue is to place value where it belongs. It is to say that honesty is good even when it costs you. That courage is good, even when it brings risk. That justice is good, even when it is inconvenient. And that wisdom is good, even when it contradicts the opinions of the crowd. These are not abstract ideals. They are actions, choices, habits of mind that must be trained and practiced. Virtue is not a matter of intention alone, but of deliberate conduct. It is not found in lofty words, but in the quiet strength to do what is right when no one is watching and when everything tempts you to do otherwise. Once you understand that virtue is the only true good, your priorities begin to shift. You stop asking what will bring you the most pleasure or praise, and you begin to ask what will make you better. You stop fearing the loss of things outside your control, and you begin to fear the loss of your integrity. You become wary not of pain or poverty, but of cowardice, selfishness, and falsehood. This is the beginning of real freedom, the kind that cannot be taken from you by force, accident, or time. Even in suffering, this principle holds firm. Pain is unpleasant, but it is not evil. Injustice from others may wound, but it does not stain your soul unless you respond in kind. Misfortune may break the body, but it cannot break the will unless you consent. The person who understands that virtue is the only good learns to meet hardship, not with bitterness, but with resolve. They understand that every trial is a chance to practice strength, and every loss a chance to reveal what truly matters. It is tempting to think of virtue as a decoration, something to add to life once success has been secured. But this is a mistake. Virtue is not the final layer, it is the foundation. Without it, success is empty and pleasure is fleeting. Without it, even a life of ease becomes a form of slavery ruled by appetite and fear. But with it, even a life of poverty, obscurity, and struggle can be full, honorable, and free. When virtue becomes the standard, life becomes coherent. Each moment, each action, each decision is weighed not against passing trends, but against the steady truth of what is right. The practice of daily reflection is the quiet labor that strengthens the inner citadel. Just as a craftsman hones his tools each day or a warrior sharpens his sword before battle, the one who seeks mastery of the self must return again and again to the examination of thought, motive, and action. Without this continual turning inward, the soul becomes dulled, distracted, and vulnerable. The noise of the world seeps in unnoticed. Impulses grow stronger than reason. Weakness hides beneath excuse. But the one who reflects daily creates a habit of clarity, a discipline of attention, a life that is not lived by accident. The day is full of impressions, images, demands, judgments, temptations. Many of them pass through the mind without consent, yet they leave their mark. Without vigilance, they begin to shape one's reactions and desires. Reflection is the practice of taking back control. It is the moment when the soul asks itself, what did I allow in today? What guided my actions, principle or impulse? Did I remain steady in the face of discomfort? Did I speak with honesty, act with justice, listen with patience? These questions are not meant to induce shame or self-loathing, but to reveal where strength must be cultivated, where the soul has drifted, and where it has held firm. This habit of reflection cannot be performed mechanically. It must be honest, even severe. The one who flatters themselves gains nothing. The one who excuses their failures by blaming others or circumstances avoids the very work that could make them free. Reflection is not for show, it is a private record. It requires the courage to admit fault, the humility to recognize ignorance, and the resolve to do better, not someday, but now, in the next action, in the next choice. It is the slow building of character through the steady application of truth. Such reflection is best done in quiet, without distraction, preferably at the end of the day. It is a time to return to oneself, to step outside the rush of duties and judgments, and to meet the self with honesty. The wise take this time seriously. They do not let the sun set without examining how they have lived. They do not count their day successful because they were productive, praised, or comfortable, but because they upheld their principles, because they made progress, however small, toward wisdom and virtue. There is also value in beginning the day with reflection. Just as the mind must look back, it must also look ahead. Morning is a time to prepare, to remind oneself of what is within one's power and what is not. It is a time to anticipate difficulty, to prepare for insult, resistance, temptation, or fatigue. By doing so, the mind is not caught off guard. It is not surprised by the nature of the world or the flaws of others. It expects them and meets them with understanding. It carries into the day a sense of purpose, not driven by events, but anchored in principle. Daily reflection also nurtures gratitude. It brings attention to the moments of quiet triumph, a harsh word withheld, a desire overcome, a duty fulfilled. It helps one to see that virtue is not some distant mountain, but a path walked step by step. It reveals how far one has come and how far there is still to go. It makes the pursuit of excellence feel tangible, not abstract. This discipline shapes not just the mind, but the entire way of being. The one who reflects daily begins to walk differently, speak differently, decide differently. They become more deliberate, more composed, more aware. They learn to trust their judgment, not because it is perfect, but because it is tested, refined, and guided by continuous effort. They begin to recognize the same process in others and grow in patience and understanding. Their strength does not come from pretending to be flawless, but from the quiet, disciplined labor of becoming more true to what is highest in them. And so, the path inward becomes the path upward. Not through spectacle, not through domination, not through chasing the world's favor, but through daily effort, unshakable principle, and the quiet mastery of the soul. The fortress within, once built, cannot be breached. It stands through storm and silence, unshaken by praise or blame. This is the inner citadel, not given but earned, and in its walls one finds not escape from life, but the strength to live it fully with clarity, courage, and peace.